Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Warsaw. I'm very glad that I have been invited here and that I have an opportunity to talk to you about security and welcome you in my city. I mean, it is kind of strange, you know, what is a mayor of a city doing at a conference about security? I mean, you are very much used to generals, ministers, members of parliament, and so on and so forth. Local government, do we really deal with security? Well, I will try to submit to you that yes, we do, and that some of the challenges that we are now confronting are the challenges that we need to respond together if we want to talk about security, if we want to talk about security within the European Union, if we want to talk about the security of nation states, and of course, the security of our population. But the most important thing that I want to tell you is that there is no security without freedom. I mean, we've heard it so many times, but it is so very true in today's complicated reality. And there is no freedom without strong institutions. And this is the main message that I will try to convey to you today. Because wherever we look, I mean, there are more and more voices telling us, well, you know, institutions, NATO, the European Union, they're not going to resolve the problems that we are dealing with. We need to think about a strong nation state. And I will try to tell you that nation states will not defend us in today's reality alone, and that institutions are very, very important. And second message that I will try to convey to you is that, yes, cities also have a role to play, because some of the challenges that are before us, challenges connected with climate change, challenges connected with migration, challenges connected with health and fighting the pandemic, are the challenges that are dealt with on a day-to-day basis by regional and national governments. And in today's reality, where quite often international institutions are being undermined by politicians, and quite often we hear the ideas about illiberal democracy, it is important to talk about the rule of law. It is important to talk about values, because these are underpinning the institutions that I was telling you about. Władysław Bartoszewski, who was a hero of the resistance against the Germans and then was our foreign minister, he said, "It is worth to be honest, although sometimes it doesn't pay off. It pays off to be dishonest, but it's never worth it." And I think that this is a good motto to get us to speak about values and institutions and how important they are in today's world to guarantee that our world is secure. And now a few quotes. In the preamble to the Washington Treaty, we can read that parties are determined to safeguard the freedom, common heritage, and civilization of the peoples founded on the principles of democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. And without those values and without upholding the rule of law, we will never have strong institutions. The NATO saying, which you know so well, says that one set of forces, of course, will defend us. But I will submit to you that also one set of values is important for us to move forwards and to be absolutely certain that our security will be safeguarded. And it is the values that should drive us and that should help us in safeguarding our security. Article number 2 of the Washington Treaty, the parties will contribute towards the further development of peaceful and friendly international relations by strengthening the free institutions, by bringing about a better understanding of the principles upon which those institutions are founded, and by promoting conditions of stability and well-being. It is very, very important, because we all focus on Article number 5, but Article number 5 will not work if Article number 2 is not treated seriously, because we need strong institutions. And if someone is asking about the future of the NATO, about the future of the European Union, one has to ask him or herself a question: what brings us together? And the answer is simple: precisely those values. And we need those strong institutions in today's world, because without them, it will be very difficult to talk about security. And I will submit to you that it is not only about NATO, but even more so about the European Union. And the European Union is not just for freedoms. And by the way, if you question the supremacy of the EC law, four freedoms won't exist. The single market will simply disappear if everyone starts interpreting the rules on its own. But the European Union is much more. I mean, if we really want to deal with security, I mean, what comes to mind? Disinformation. What comes to mind today? Hybrid warfare, cybersecurity, migration, energy security, fighting the pandemic. Those are the things that we are concentrating on now, sometimes even more than on hard security. And of course, hard security is also at the heart of the Union. And it is incredibly important to understand that if you really want a smaller union, a less ambitious union, if you really will be talking about just nation states, without talking about the community, without understanding the values that underpin European integration, you're actually undermining the security aspects of the Union that we need so much, everywhere in the European Union. And of course, in case of Poland even more, because of our geopolitical location. And that's why we in the cities also are very much concerned about the strength of the institutions, about the rule of law, and about the signals that we send from this part of Europe. We started the Pact of Free Cities. Bratislava, Budapest, of course, Warsaw, and Prague. Because we wanted to send a signal that if you really want to strengthen security, we need to work together, and we also need to be constructive. The Visegrad Group used to be very constructive. Today, it's not working too well, to put it mildly. And we invited other cities to help us out. And recently, the pact was enlarged to cities such as Paris and London, to German cities, to Spanish cities, Barcelona, to cities of the region, because we want to send a strong signal that, yes, we also deal with security. And that, yes, also it is very important to send a signal that even at this day and age, where some of our governments are very much inward-looking, are not proposing too many constructive solutions, there are forces within those countries that are going to fight for openness, for tolerance, and for actually meeting the challenges head-on. And that's what we are proposing to do. Also belonging to another network, Cities Fortifying Democracy. We all know that 2/3 of Europeans live in cities. We all know that we are responsible for quite a big chunk of the GDP, 20% in case of Warsaw and Poland, 30% in case of Paris and France. But the most important thing, and this is the second message that I want to submit to you, is that we are at the forefront of some of the challenges that we are talking about today. And of course, we do not have an army. We're not responsible for the hard security. But anything else you touch, there is a role that the local and regional government plays. And sometimes you can even think that the municipal police and that the doctors and nurses are now, and firefighters are now at the forefront of fighting some of the most important challenges that are before us. Because I think that the pandemic made us realize that those softer security issues are so important. That energy security, with prices soaring, we just received an offer, 60% more will pay for energy in Warsaw, 60% more, even though we were supposed to be helped, even though the billions coming from the European Union. And those are the consequences of the changes that we are embarking upon without the right preparation. So energy security, incredibly important as well, fighting pandemic, dealing with migration, dealing with what we see on the eastern border of Poland, what we saw before. And of course, we need a hard border within the European Union. Let's make no mistake about that. But we need to implement all of those tools that we have been working on within the European Union in the past years. We cannot simply turn a blind eye to what is happening and simply talk about the border as it was the only problem. It is the most important problem. But if you want to secure the border, you should use all the instruments that are at your disposal and not simply try to turn the population of a country against refugees. Because it is immoral, because it is against the values, and it will not resolve the problems. That's why, yes, strong border, but deal with the problems first. So migration as well. And of course, it is the cities that are going to be dealing with some of those problems as well. Look at the number of Belarusians and Ukrainians in Warsaw today. We're trying to help as much as we can, because what we really want, we want as diverse and then as open, as tolerant a city as we can. And finally, climate change. Last but not least, I mean, if we do not start dealing with climate change, then there will be catastrophe. And it is too late already. We should be investing as much as we can. We should be making people aware of the problem and not try to downgrade it. And on top of it all, if we do not invest in new technologies, we are going to be left out, the margins of Europe. And this is the biggest problem I want to tell you in conclusion, that we need strong institutions. We need a strong European Union. And sometimes we talk about different risks. We have all observed Brexit. And there is a risk, not because one or second politician will come to a lectern and will announce to the world we are leaving the European Union, is that some of the deeds have consequences. If you question the primacy of the EU law, if you're not constructive, if you're turning a blind eye into seeing all of the challenges and dealing with all the challenges that are before us, and if you start questioning the values that underpin European integration, you know what kind of scenario comes out of that, the scenario which would be dreadful for Europe, the scenario of two different speeds, and of a fortified federal Europe and others being outside of it. That would be a mistake for us all. That's why we need to fight for strong values, deal with the problems, involve local and regional authorities, because we are also there at the forefront of change, fighting for the world to change for the better, not for the worse. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to Warsaw. Warsaw is in the name of the conference. Remember that at the end of the day, we have very same goals. And even though sometimes we differ when it comes to policy, we all want Warsaw, Poland, and Warsaw has had its share of historical experiences, what it was razed to the ground. Warsaw, Poland, and the European Union, we want them to be secure, and we're ready to work hand in hand, resolving some of the most important challenges that are before us. And as always, at the end, as the mayor of Warsaw, thank you very much for coming to our beautiful, open and tolerant city, which marries two things: a huge respect for tradition and values, and for the heroes that fought for Warsaw to be great again, and always looking into the future, always dealing with the challenges head on, because that's what we have in our DNA. And thank you very much for coming in this difficult day and age. Finally, we have some normalcy back. So enjoy Warsaw, spend as much money as you can, I always say that, support our economy, and think about the challenges that are before us, not only from the hardcore security perspective, but sometimes think about what you can do for it as a citizen of your city or of your village. Thank you very much. Dziękuję bardzo.